This is how big this engine is. In reality, it is huge. It is w12, so it's shorter than the v12, but it's definitely larger. It's just big. Let me just show you from this perspective, maybe. Yeah, it's huge. Right, so a bit more progress on the Econoline, and oh crap, where's the engine? Yes, it's not here anymore. However, now you can notice roughly how huge this hole is just to put that engine in. And I can tell you right now, this is the minimum. You know, we are actually at the level you see where I cut the floor. It is actually the same level, same height as the chassis rails, and yeah, it barely fits. This is how big that engine is. Let me show you. Let me just grab my coffee because it's morning and I kind of need it today. She's ta-da! It is pretty damn big. Obviously we have to work on the gearbox now. It's gonna be rear-wheel drive, blah blah blah, and yeah, this is how it looks like from the outside. Now you can see obviously why all of these bends and all that stuff. This bend here is to allow that fitting over there for the air compressor fitting, the big one and the small one. So everything now starts making sense. Wires, twisty stuff, etc, etc. Plus we have the access to every single bolt there. You see, you can access them all. And yeah, this is how it looks like. I took it out. Let me show you this side. It's a bit easier. This is obviously that cooler we have to remove because there was no space for it, blah blah. And yeah, this is this marking. It's actually this my ramp, because I went actually, believe it or not, through this space, which was a bit tight. It's a bit of a mark here, a bit of a mark here, but apart the mark, this is kind of wobbly now. But it went through. As soon as you remove the power steering pump, it went through by millimeters, not even that. So I did remove that. I signed obviously positions of this where they have to be, and I have to make mounts to support this in place so it doesn't move, to support this in place so it doesn't move. But obviously I needed the engine close to the welding station I have over here, or bring my welding machines to the van, which turns out is gonna be almost the same job as bringing the engine here. Plus I need the engine outside anyway because I have to work on the transfer case. Obviously this van is not gonna be four-wheel drive, so I don't need the front differential, I don't need the front prop, I don't need the transfer case at all. Yeah, that's the intercooler, both sides. Well, that's my training parts for the boxing. Let's put them on the side because they're not needed to be here. The intercooler with the bars welded in, so we got better airflow, no restriction anymore. This is how it looks like without. Hopefully you can see it. And this is how it looks like with the bars inside. Now I'm not gonna go into detail because I think I've done it before in a video, I don't know, because I'm doing this content over 2 weeks. But if I didn't put those bars inside, and there will be way more resistance for the air to go through these veins, and a single intercooler, although this is huge, nearly 5-inch, would not be enough for that engine. And the only reason this is actually enough, I've calculated this, is just enough, is because we got those bars inside. And if you wonder if they make a difference, there is on the flat surface the resistance is the resistance coefficient is 1.14. On the round is 0.045, not 0.45, 0.045. In comparison, that's nothing. And then when you boost it at one bar, you got twice as amount of air and flow and all the stuff, and it's just amplifying those numbers. So as much as you amplify every restriction with the boost, if you have something that improves whatever you've done, with the boost, again, you improve it even more. So bear that in mind. Hey, I'm back. So this is how big this engine is. In reality, it is huge. It is W12, so it's shorter than the V12, but it's definitely larger. It's just big. Let me just show you from this perspective, maybe. Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, it's big. It's big. However, I've done the mounts on boost pipes, both of them. Well, this is the intake pipes, really, not boost pipes, and this one's as well here. These ones are machined, so the heads of the bolts, they drop inside, nothing sticks out. Blah blah blah. I don't know, it's a bit of a small touch, but I wanted it this way. Now you can tell why all these exhaust manifolds were all tricky and all bending, all the stuff. We want to retain the aircon compressor, for example, so this pipe had to go this way as it is now. You just put the light on, you can see it better, because we need a space for that fitting over there, and this one as well. So all of this now, it kind of makes sense. Once the engine is out, you can actually see all the stuff, and once it was inside, I had to crumble underneath from underneath of the floor and all the stuff, checking and making sure everything is right, what space we need, etc, etc, and take the manifolds off again, put them on the bench, mock it up, then test it, make sure I mock it up the right way, and then bring it back over. Is like endless job, and so that's why this stuff sometimes is expensive, because it requires much more work than what people think. It's not just a couple of pipes welded together. You don't just weld the manifold, all right? You have to build it, and when you build it, it's again lots of stuff you have to go around it. You have to be careful. It doesn't have to be on the way there. It doesn't have to be too close to the heads, or there's some cyst, or there's some plastic bits, and there's a lot of things to take in consideration. Sure, once you make them in production line, so you have a jig, you make one after another, fine, that's a different story, because you made the one, and that's the biggest effort, and just reproduce them. But when the stuff is one off, it's a completely different story, especially in something like this. Okay, so this is finished. You've seen all the stuff. Well, finished, not really finished, because we still need oil feeds for the turbo, which is this ones. The core has to be twisted. These plugs are for the oil, for the water cooling. Not really sure if you're gonna run water cooling on this system or not. Usually we don't do it. In this one, as you have to make a decision. The oil return lines we have to still obviously build and do all the stuff. Plenty of stuff to do. The plate, the adapter plate for the oil cooler, that was there. Well, oil and water heat exchanger, which we had to remove, obviously, to give us a space for the exhaust manifold and all the stuff. And actually show you, this is here. You probably remember this from one of the previous videos, one of the first ones. This is the one we removed, yeah. And this is the plate. Now both to replace it with. Well, I have to build this one, but that's what we're starting with. However, today the biggest thing is that we're working on the transmission, because again the gearbox was a big question mark, because this is not a rear-wheel drive gearbox. This is a quattro gearbox, the big quattro gearbox. You got the small ones, you got the big ones. The auto ones are ZF. This is 6 HP 28 on the green plate, but on the casting it actually says, let me show you, 6 HP 26A instead of 28. And the 28 they comes as BMW Jag X5, but 26 6 HP 26 gearboxes, they all come as all-wheel drive, like this style gearbox, which is Audi for liter, all quattro big engines. And I like the construction of them. I think they're strong, I think they're good, blah blah blah, and all this stuff. However, there's a catch, and it's a big one, and actually it's a big issue for us, because Econoline has a solid axle on the back, right? That's the one over there. Probably can't see it. I'm gonna show you that in a minute, because I'm gonna have to explain a couple of things. Why is that an issue? We sort of knew it before, but we kind of, okay, let's leave this for later, because we're not considering about this. It's like we don't have to think about this right now. But now the time comes to actually do it. And if you pay attention, this is the main gearbox. This is auto. The auto gearbox works on pretty much one shaft. It's split obviously in gears, but it's one shaft, one output shaft. Rotation of the engine is, if you see it from behind, is anti-clockwise. And the flanges, the output flanges from the gearboxes are anti-clockwise. So if you see the diff from the behind, it has to go turn anti-clockwise to go forward. Correct? You with me? Pretty simple, right? Fine. But if you see the output flange on this is not there, is not on that shaft, is on the bottom, because obviously this is a transfer case. So we have the internal differential which split the torque, the power, the motion between the rear axle, this, the flange to go to the rear diff, and the flange or the prop shaft to go to the front diff, okay? Now, this transfer case is not a traditional one. Usually, transfer cases, they have, if they gear driven, they have 3 gears. If they chain driven, they have 2 gears. The main gears, I'm talking to main gears. No, I'm not talking the transfer cases, they have low gears and high gears. That is 4x4. This is all-wheel drive. Big difference. Let me show you something. If you have 3 gears, 1, 2, and 3. Usually it's something like this, like Land Rover's LT 230 series transfer cases. Fairly strong internally, gear driven, pretty good. So this, the flange on the top, obviously, which is direct from the gearbox, which again spins anti-clockwise as the motion of the engine, right? The rotation of the engine. And I'm talking looking from the behind it. If you're looking from the front, it will be clockwise, but we're looking from behind for the simplicity of explanation. So if this gear drives anti-clockwise, this in consequence, it will drive clockwise, and this one will drive anti-clockwise, you know? It's very easy to follow the motion. Go this way, and go this way. Very simple, 3 gears. So you have, even if you have the reduction or you have the transfer case or whatever, the top gear spins exactly the same as the bottom gear because you have one in the middle. But pay attention, in our case, we only have 2 of them. So what happens is like this. This goes anti-clockwise and this goes clockwise. What that means? Very simply, it means we have 6 gears in reverse and 1 forward. Okay, so this seems like a problem, but again, it really isn't. Well, it is, but it isn't, because obviously when you build stuff, like I do fabrication stuff, you're constantly sorting out the problems. You're building stuff that doesn't exist, you're finding solutions to the problems. It's all one big problem. I don't even call them the problems, it's just, it's a job, it's a work that you have to do. Okay, we want this, I want it to work in something different. You can call it as a problem. Can you sort it out for me? Yes, I can sort it out. This is one of them. Again, we kind of knew this before. I wasn't sure how this transfer case was working. Now I know. That's it. And it will not work in this van with this axle, which is a bit of a shame. Now, my idea at the beginning was like, I'm gonna open the transfer case, which I'm gonna open in a minute, and I'm gonna make a plate, which is like this one, and I'm gonna use the shaft, the primary shaft, output shaft from the gearbox directly, and I'm gonna make an adapter or something to put this flange or different one directly here. So I'm gonna just transform this gearbox back to rear-wheel drive only. Like, okay, but how did it work? How does it look like? I was like, you know what, it's hard to explain, and this was my mistake, right? And I was like, oh, I'll show you, because I have my RC car, I'll show you how it works. That's why I got this outside. So this is independent suspension. You got upper arm, lower arm, shocks in between, and they go up and down. And then I'll show him the pictures of the Ultra 4 baggies. You do, and you know him. But to be honest, in my words, I can't even explain how crazy and quickly this escalated. I should actually have my camera yesterday and show it, because it was just, it's like, I can't explain, it was like a comedy show. Honestly, it was like, okay, I'll show you how it works, you know. So you got this suspensions, he was not even listening. It was like, whoa, that's cool, can I have that?